In a small town where rain pattered down more frequently than sunbeams, there was a small cafe named Willow's Brew. To the everyday folk, it was a warm heaven of comfort, soft lights, the aroma of cinnamon and coffee, and the laughter that filled the air. But to Leela Ainsworth, the lady at the counter, it was her heaven, and her cover. She wasn't a normal barista. She was a witch, the last of her line, living in secret. Her fingers could conjure fire, her eyes shimmered softly gold in candlelight, and the cafe itself stood over hidden magic. She lived beneath the radar, weaving her spells into sugar and steam, until one drizzly Tuesday, when the door swung open, and the world shifted. A tall, unflappable man stepped inside, rain dripping from his leather coat. He drank his coffee black, no name, no sugar, and when their eyes collided, her heart hiccuped. There was something shadowy about him, something familiar. He smelled of smoke and iron, like someone who had been too near fire for too long. That was the first time Leela saw Ethan, and the start of everything she was going to lose and rediscover. Ethan Ward wasn't there for coffee. He was a demon hunter, trained, battle-scarred, and dispatched to hunt down the witch who would survived the Crescent Fire massacre. The whispers claimed she torched her entire coven to death. The council had a kill order on her, and Ethan was the one tasked to bring her in. But the second he walked into Willow's Brew, something within him stilled. The woman working the counter didn't appear to be a monster. Her smile was soft, her voice gentle, and when she laughed, it was like a song he'd lost the ability to hear. He reminded himself that he was just studying her, waiting for signs. But each day he returned, and each day it grew more difficult to recall that she was to be his target. Sometimes, she noticed him staring. She'd tease, "You keep showing up like a stray cat." And he'd grin and reply, "Maybe I'm just hoping for a saucer of tea." He didn't know it yet, but he was already falling, not into a trap, but into love. The nights became longer, and so did their talks. They started exchanging tales, half-truths embedded in giggles. Leela described herself as a herbalist with insomnia. Ethan said he did freelance security. Neither disclosed what they actually were. But magic sees magic, even when it wears a mask of skin and silence. Her spells hummed softly whenever he was around. And once, when she lost her grip on a cup, he snatched it out of the air with reflexes that were too quick to be human. Even so, she wished he was normal. Wished she could have something normal, no matter how built on false impressions. Late one evening, after she'd closed up the cafe, he asked gently, "Do you ever tire of pretending all is well?" She smiled weakly and replied, "Only on days that end in rain." And outside, there rumbled thunder that sounded like heaven's laughter. But the truth is not buried forever. Ethan's deadline was approaching. The council's command was stern: find the witch, kill her, purify the town. He tracked her one night as she entered the forest, bare feet, unfazed. In the moon's light, she knelt among candles and etched symbols, speaking words that glimmered like silver. The magic throbbed, alive, ancient, and heartbreakingly lovely. Then, without looking back, she spoke. "I wondered when you'd stop playing games, Hunter." Ethan stood stock-still. She faced him, eyes flashing gold, a serene smile shaping her lips. "I didn't destroy my coven," she said. "I salvaged what I could. The demon that killed them. I contained it within me." Her voice trembled, not with fear, but with weariness. "I'm bearing it so others don't have to." There was a silence for an instant. Then Ethan lowered his blade, and for the first time, he looked at her, not as a witch, not as prey, but as a woman who had carried the fire for everyone else. They stumbled into something risky and delicate. Their love developed between candlelight and stolen evenings. They laughed at burnt pancakes, danced in the darkened cafe late, and sometimes lay awake until dawn, mapping scars and secrets on one another's skin. Ethan still trained. Leela still worked her spells. But with him, she felt human again. One evening, she teased, "Should I wear a witch hat or something?" He chuckled, "Only if it's bulletproof." They both smiled, not knowing how little time they had left. For the council was approaching, and love, however innocent, cannot be concealed from the hunters for eternity. The first warning arrived quietly. A delicate blue light under Leela's bed, a tracking charm, minor but lethal. She gazed at it, understanding what it was telling her. He hadn't intended to betray her, but the council must have used him as a conduit, protection masquerading as protocol. Her heart shattered quietly. Because sometimes betrayal is not born of hatred. Sometimes it is born of duty. That night, the hunters arrived. Leela stood alone while they hemmed her cafe in. Flames blazed, not from her magic, but from the demon inside. The windows shattered, the sky turned red. And through the flames, she saw Ethan, screaming out for her, his face twisted with horror. She spoke one final spell, and disappeared in the smoke. Only ashes were left. The council declared her dead. Ethan knew it was a lie. He felt her magic in every flicker of candlelight, in every warm wind that passed through the ruins. He left the hunters, burned his badge, and began searching across cities, forests, and shadows. Months passed. No trace. Until one night, a letter slipped under his door. "You can stop hunting now, Ethan. I'm safe. Please, don't look for me. L." But love doesn't respond to letters. He couldn't help it. Far from that destroyed town, Leela began anew by the ocean. A new name, a new existence. The sea soothed her, and for a time, the demon within remained quiet. She once more opened a little shop, selling tea and books rather than magic. And each evening, she spoke to the waves. "Forgive me for living." But one stormy night, a knock upon her door. When she opened it, Ethan stood before her, soaked, winded, eyes brimming with love and anguish. "You shouldn't be here," she breathed. "I never stopped being here," he replied. And in that instant, the demon within her stirred. Her eyes clouded, her breathing rapid. It cycled through her arteries. "He'll kill you. Kill him first." She dropped to her knees, shivering. "Run, Ethan," she panted. "It's taking over." But Ethan didn't run. He hugged her close, even as flames licked at her flesh. And gently, he uttered an old incantation, one that was forbidden even to trackers. A release spell. Light burst forth around them. Flames resolved to vapor. Then, nothing. When Leela woke, the fire was out. The storm had passed. But Ethan was nowhere to be found. Only his pendant remained in her hand, a silver charm, still warm. Tears scorched her eyes as she whispered, "You freed me, didn't you?" Days passed into weeks. Leela reopened a new cafe along the sea, with the same aroma of cinnamon and hope. She never mentioned him, but occasionally, when she lit the candles, she could feel a warmth brush against the shoulder, as if someone stood behind her with a smile. They say witches can't love without cost. Perhaps that is true. But sometimes, love incinerates the curse instead of fueling it. One still evening, after the sun had slipped below the horizon, a stranger went past the window of the cafe. Tall, familiar, eyes grey as a storm. He glanced back, for the blink of an eye, and smiled. Leela froze. Her magic buzzed, alive, warm, full of hope. And in that instant, she knew. Some fires never burn out. They just wait, quietly, patiently, for the moment to flare up once more. Perhaps this time, she thought, perhaps this time, they'd both be free.